Wow, I'm sorry to hear about your wife, William. That's crazy. That's very sad. So you're a direct, unfortunate victim of this unland management that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I paid a price. We paid a heavy price for the knowledge we have today. I mean, but we have knowledge now that nobody else has. With my own eyes. The other thing that was blown me away, Mike, is the horses aren't afraid of fire. These wild horses, here comes the fire. They're like, 75 yards away from the oncoming flames. They're just grazing. I got a picture of it. I've been putting it in my article. These guys are just head down grazing, and I got to thinking about that. I'm going, they're first of all, we have horse fossils up here, so they're grazing over the bones of their ancestors, right?
Yeah.
What could be more natural than that? And then on top of it, when they're grazing, they're still managing the fuel right in front of the fire. They'd occasionally look up and then look down, but they were here a million years ago when Mount Shasta was erupting. They were here when Tahoe was erupting. They were here when Crater Lake was erupting. They've seen lava. Their ancestors have seen lava. And so, they're not like the horses the Spaniards reintroduced. By the way, those are made in America. The horses that the Europeans brought back, those were made in America. They crossed over Beringia a million years ago. All horses in the world originally evolved right here in North America 55 million years ago.
Wow.
And then the most successful line was Equus caballus, the modern horse we all see today. Well, a million years ago, when the landmass between Alaska and Siberia connected them together, some of our horses went across into Eurasia. And then over that next million years that they were in Eurasia, they evolved into subspecies. That's how we got zebras, Polsky horses, Konik horses, all these different horses with different characteristics. They had a chance to evolve in that new land. But in the meantime, they were still here, right? And then about 220,000 years ago, deer, elk, and bison came from Asia into North America. They're Asian immigrants. And so, when people talk about, when President Nixon signed the 1971 Free Roaming Wild Horse and Burro Protection Act, he was honoring American heritage. We built America off their backs. We fought wars off our horses' backs. We owe them. Morally, we should salute them every year, because there would be no civilization, there would be no America. There was no eagle and buggy, right, Mike? There was no eagle and buggy. It was horse and buggy. And,
absolutely.
So we've got to, are we Americans or what? We need to have a little bit of moral fiber and show a little loyalty to the animals that supported our livelihoods.
Very good, William. Let's watch a little clip that you gave me and get a little bit deeper insight, and we'll discuss.
This is Free Invest TV. The California nonprofit Wild Horse Fire Brigade hopes to drive down those losses and mitigate catastrophic wildfires with its natural wildfire abatement and forest protection plan that relies on the help of an unlikely resource.
Wildfires require three key ingredients: oxygen, fuel, and an ignition source. Wind does not fuel a fire. Fuel fuels the fire. In this case, we're talking about grass and brush. We cannot change the oxygen content of the air, nor can we control ignition sources such as lightning or human behavior. The one thing we can control are annually occurring grass and brush fuels using animals such as wild horses that eat grass and brush, also known as herbivores. In the western United States, we have a very well-known collapse of the herbivore. We may be down as many as 3 million deer in California, and Oregon is down approximately 500,000 deer. When you have a collapse of the herbivory, catastrophic wildfire evolves. By reestablishing the herbivory, what we do is we start reducing these fuels and we devolve catastrophic fires.
Being able to do vegetation control targeted on ground fuels, both at the individual property level and at the community level, is the number one driver for decreasing risk.
These big, robust animals, weighing 1,000 to 1,200 pounds, rub up against low-hanging limbs. They call those fire ladders. They break them off. And so basically the tree is removed of all the low limbs, and they remove the grass under the tree because they're there under the tree resting, so they graze the grass, and they fertilize the tree with their droppings. So these trees are made fire resilient. Today in the United States, we have 60,000 American wild horses that have been captured off the wilderness and put into taxpayer-funded government holding, and we're feeding them the grass instead of leaving them where they're going to do some good for society. Each wild horse will eat about 30 pounds of grass and brush a day, about 5.5 tons a year.
In the last 5 years, from the insurance industry perspective, the losses have not only doubled and tripled, but they're 10, 20, 50-fold as high as they used to be. It used to average $700 million a year in losses. In the 90s, now the insurance industry pays on average $7 billion.
These wildfire.
Yeah, and a lot more from what you're saying, William. So that's
It's a lot.
what you're saying. 10 times more again, and 100 times more. Jesus.
Well, the cost in human blood. I mean, the Americans that are dying, these are little kids, little baby boys and girls that are a couple years old. They breathe this in, and then they develop a comorbidity and die when they're 20 or 30, and they can't. The computer said it couldn't even compute that. And we just know like on my wife's death certificate, it says autoimmune neurodegenerative disease from wildfire smoke. Now we know about those people, but also the computer said we can't even begin to calculate the losses that come 5-10 years later from people who develop a comorbidity and don't die immediately. The human treasure. I mean, we're losing our families, our friends, people, pilots, nurses, people like you doing important work like this. We're losing them. They just die. I mean, that has to stop. I don't care how much money these guys make fighting fire. They have to go flip burgers if they need to, but we can't be killing Americans so a small group of people can make money. That's got to end.
Yeah, I totally agree. And let me share that one Horse of Nature award-winning documentary about how wild horses mitigate wildfire. So this is really good. A little bit of your information in here. So.
This fire broke out yesterday afternoon, the day after Independence Day.
All right, little download problem there, but yeah, it's goes on and talks about how this is very tragic indeed.
It is.
It's a show about kids. You always want kids.
So that's one of those things that you have had experience with, unfortunately, and you are warning all of us right now. It's every year it seems to get worse. I know in California we're the only state right now. In California, the first time in 25 years that we don't have drought anywhere in California. And I promise you, there'll be fires this year. There'll be big fires.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed to get another round of snow to help, but it's the way it works here in California. It's like there's this group that seems to be maybe even making these fires happen. I don't know.
Yeah, well, like I said, we can't control that. We, like Marcus Aurelius says in Meditations, don't worry about the things you can't change. Don't worry about the things you can. We can control fuel. And nature does it best. She does it, these herbivores, like up here where I am, my herd of horses, I'm not worried about my place burning because I've got what I call a defensible landscape. A defensible space that the CAL FIRE tries to sell you on is useless. You could go out 100 feet, but when you have a hillside full of grass and brush next to you, the heat front from that fire with the wind on it is going to incinerate your house from 200-300 feet away. The flames don't even need to get there. The heat front will just cause things to combust. Now, I fought fire when I was a logger, and we never saw molten aluminum on the fire scenes. You never seen a molten aluminum ladder, molten aluminum engine blocks or mags. Today, these fires are so hot as a function of fuel. When your cabin gets cold, what do? You put more fuel in, it makes more energy, more heat. When you have all this grass and brush that's not mowed down in the wilderness, the heat is abnormal. It is abnormal. Fire resilient trees, entire forests of trees that need fire. And we do need normal fire. I don't want to misinform anybody here. Normal fire is important for a forest, but it doesn't destroy the forest. It burns low and slow into the trees, cleans the understory of the forest. It helps the reproductive cycle of the conifers because it opens cones and does things. So the bottom line is, when you lose your herbivory that's managing the understory fuels in a forest, it burns abnormally hot. And we've seen this time and time again. An entire fire-evolved forest, trees that need fire, dead, burned to the dirt. And that's an indication something is seriously wrong. And what it is the collapsed herbivory. And I'm not saying Wild Horse Fire Brigade is a silver bullet here, Mike. What I'm saying is it's a baby step to a successful repopulation of herbivores. We got 70,000 lawnmowers, and I'm being stingy. I want 70,000 for California. I mean, I get it. Everybody's dying in Washington, Oregon, in Idaho, and Montana. Same problem. But, we got to put these horses somewhere. And California is getting hammered by these fires. People are being dead. If we put these horses here, we can do that right now. And guess what? We save $150 million a year. Trump should be all over the top of this, But the gatekeepers are keeping me out. Right now, I'm fighting with the corrupt agencies that they like the flow of cash the way it is. A lot of guys are getting envelopes full of money. These horses, how do American wild horses with brands on their neck, you can't mistake them. How are they ending up going to Mexico and being put in the meat grinder? Those are American assets. That's conversion. That's a federal crime, But people are, the payola, this has got to stop. So we could put them out here, and we will see a dent in these fires. These guys will put a dent. Now, it's not the silver bullet. We still have to do something about deer and elk. And that's easy because guess what, Mike? In 1910, California issued a moratorium on deer hunting because the gold miners out here, they didn't want to leave their claims. They were shooting all the game animals around their claims. And so we had a collapse in 1910. We went from 3 million deer in California to 500,000 deer in 1910. Well, the California government says, all right, that's it. No hunting. 1910, no hunting. No more deer hunting. It took, I think it was like 10, 15 years. They brought the herd back up to 3 million, and then they let them hunt again. Well, guess what? Today, we're below 400,000. We're even lower than the threshold that triggered it last time at 500. So 500K was the trigger in 1910. Now we're below 400. We're not doing anything. And there's more pressure on the herds than there ever was before. So, this whole management paradigm, but the horses are the first step. We can do that immediately. President Trump could do an executive order. All those incarcerated American treasured horses are to be released. They're all sterilized, so they're not going to interfere with any. They're not going to breed or overpopulate. That's another myth. You put them out there in the deep wilderness, and these geldings, you can put pairs of 2 at a time, like on hills around you. They don't breed or anything. They're already gelded, so they're just big old boys. They just walk around and mow your lawn for free and trim your trees, and then they go under a tree and take a nap in their beautiful landscape. I mean, talk about the best yard art you could hope for.
Absolutely.
A treasured, yeah. And then in the deep wilderness, you do want breeding herds because there's predators, and predators control population. BLM lies through their teeth. Now, I'm not being hard on the BLM. These are facts, Mike. They published a document to the U.S. Congress in 2018, a plan for managing wild horses and burros. And on, I think it was paragraph 2 of page 1 of the executive summary, it said, wild horses have no natural predators. Now, that is an absolute lie. And whoever wrote that should go to prison because that's also a crime. Using public tax money to write a felonious statement and then presenting it to the Congress people, that's a crime. Now, the thing is everything eats them, been eating them for 2 million years. That's just a fact. And they say because of that, because of the lie, they claim that herds double every 4 years in size. So if you have 100 horses in 4 years, it's 200 horses. So if you have 200 horses in 4 years, it's 800 or 400 horses, so forth. So I've been here studying my herd of 200 since 2012. Now, according to the BLM, I should have over 800 horses out here. I have 200 horses today. And the reason being is they're being eaten by mountain lions, bears, coyotes, and wolves. So I have a stable population because the predators are. Why are they overpopulating in the areas where the government's managing them? It's because they shot all their natural predators, so that they got livestock commingled with wild horses. Nixon didn't plan on that when he passed the act. President Nixon assigned 53 million acres for the horses, not for cattle and livestock, for the horses. It's in the 1971 Free Roaming Wild Horse Burrow Protection Act, and I understand those in those big areas. There's a lot of areas with livestock grazing on BLM land now. The livestock guys don't want to have their calves and lambs and stuff eaten by predators, so the USDA hunters come in, and they're all shooters, right? And they just get rid of the predators. Well, you've just killed all the predators that normally control the horse population that's commingled. So what happens? They do the same thing the livestock do. They overpopulate. Well, livestock production is about overpopulation. So it's a man-caused problem. It's not the horse. It's a management problem. And what I say is, fine, guys, move the horses out of those areas and let's put them where they do some good for taxpayers. And it's a no-brainer, Mike. I can't believe these people aren't all over the top of it. The insurance industry is, as you can see.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the wilderness. I walked the Pacific Crest Trail, spent over 2,000 miles. And I saw all the burned land back there. It's disgusting. They're not doing any land management back there, just letting it burn. These horses would do incredible work back there and probably save that and make it, more people would like to go back there. And, the national park lands are all burned too. So we need this. Now, get into California, make it, work. Everybody can see it. How long will it take to, spread it to other states, and how many states could actually use this?
Well, I would start with, I'm just asking Siskiyou County to support me. And you mentioned Pacific Crest Trail. That is in the Six Rivers National Forest, by the way. That's a 1 million acre U.S. forest. And we already have MOUs with livestock guys to graze on the edges of it where there ain't too many big predators. So they're already on the very outside edges of that using livestock to graze fuels. And that's sensible. But in the deep part, like where you're talking about, the burns, because there's no more deer out and elk out there to speak of. I mean, they're really collapsed. We could put 1,000 horses there. We can get them, and some people will argue with me. Well, Bill, we don't have any law that lets us do that. Well, guess what? And if you ask the BLM, is there any way we can do Bill's plan and move horses into the wilderness? They say, oh no, but right on their own website, if you Google BLM Humane Transfer of Excess Animals Act, it's right on the BLM's website that any government agency can ask for horses through BLM, Humane Transfer of Excess Animals Act. And it'll bring up a page, and lo and behold, it's right on the BLM's own website. They'll never tell you it's there. They lie by omission too. That's another way they lie to the American people, is by omission. I tell people, look, there is a law. It's a federal act. It says that any government authority, a city, a town, a county, a state, you go to the BLM and you say, hey, I need 500 horses and I need them for wildfire fuel management. They got to give them to you. Because under this act, Mike, what happens is you get the wild horse from the government, and it's actually, you got to go to the BLM. You got to Google. That's it. That is it. But if you go to, I want to show how corrupt the BLM is. If you type in Google BLM, you type in BLM, Humane Transfer of Excess Animals Act, in your search window.
Yeah, see if I can get it back in here.
Go to,
So that's right.
There it is down there. See BLM's? Yeah, that one. There you go. Click on that one. Nope, go down. Nope, right there, with the green logo, right there.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's right at the BLM site.
And the burrows. Yep.
Yeah, so here's what that says. It says that any government authority can request animals, and they got to give them to you. Well, when you get them under this act, their designation changes from wild horse to work animal. There's a change in title, another change in title, right? And under the exclusion clause the U.S. Forest has, they can do anything they want to do to prevent the forest from burning, including deploying work animals. Okay, so you get the horses and you drop them in Six Rivers in the boondocks out there. Nobody will see them again except for the hikers on PCT, and they'll help reduce those fires and the toxic smoke. And we save $150 million a year. We don't have to feed them in a jail cell anymore. And then they get to live wild and free. You know, their freedom is important too. I mean, this is America. Freedom is important to everybody. And the Lakota Nation considered the horses a nation of sentient beings. They call them the Horse Nation, the Lakota tribes. Beautiful. And because they respected them, it was a beautiful relationship that they had with those horses. And there's no reason why Americans can't have that relationship again, where the horses benefit humankind again, because they helped us build civilization around the whole world. So this is just, I don't understand what the pushback is. We have the law that lets us do it. We just get an MOU with the Forest Service that we're putting work animals. They're sterilized. They're not going to overpopulate. We got 70,000 of them that are sterilized. Drop them out there, start mowing the lawn, and they reseed it. And guess what that does? Remember all that burned land you saw, Mike, when you were hiking PCT? Well, guess what? When it rains in the winter, all the mud comes down the sides of them hills and covers all the fish eggs. All the salmon and steelhead come swimming up right in the fall in late summer to spawn. And then the winter rains come and cover the eggs. Guess what happens? All those eggs die. They suffocate. And then the fish are gone. And then everybody goes, oh, it must be the dams. No, wrong. It wasn't the dams. It was the fires. But nobody's out there. This is what I do for a living now. I'm 73. I'm supposed to be retired. I'm working 120 hours a week, trying to help people. I'm trying to save American lives, Mike.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Now we do have the youngsters now. You've had them up on your property. These two ladies from Sacramento State. So they're learning, from you, and that's what we need in the future. We need to get more people involved like this, and then, I mean, we have the right to start bringing these animals and start to place them, because it's already in the law. It's in the law. So it's an easy fix. We just have to get people educated so that we can start moving on it.
That's right. You're absolutely right, Mike. And we're on our third year with the fellowship program. We've had quite a few students come through. Those were our first students right there. And they had an amazing experience up here. They went home and talked to people about because they didn't know anything they didn't even know we had American wild horses left. And when they came up here and saw, you can tell how they're completely different than domestic horses. They were blown away. And it was.
Yeah, let's play this little piece real quick.
Director of Wild Horse Fire Brigade. We're here at our research site in the mountains of the Siskiyou Cascades, and I'm here with the Sacramento, California State University of Sacramento students, Shelby and Cerise, and they're here, first students in our fellowship program, and their first day was yesterday. So I just had a couple of questions. So Shelby, maybe you can tell us what you hope to achieve with your fellowship.
I'm really excited to learn more about naturally living horses and how they interact with their environment, and excited to look at the population and start getting a better understanding of how they're living out here.
Right on. And so we had a pretty interesting first day yesterday. Maybe you could tell us about that, Cerise.
Yeah, yesterday we were able to take a little hike on one of our first trails, and right around the plateau, a big band of horses came running down, about, over 15. They saw us and they had to change track, but that was pretty amazing to see them in action, and yeah, so beautiful.
Right on. Well, we really appreciate you choosing this fellowship program up here, and we're hoping to continue the program and educate people about the value of wild horses on our American landscape.
Boom. And you're doing it. You're doing it. It's amazing. So it does make a difference, educating people like you're doing right now. I've never heard of anything like this. To me, like you said, it's like so much common sense. It's like ridiculous. I can't believe that our BLM is not more involved with this. it's pretty disgusting, but it's typical of government. They're not for the people anymore. They're for themselves. So we need to change that and get involved. The only way we can change that is get involved.
Yeah, you're right. I was nominated to be on the National Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board. They called me up. I got nominated by a sitting U.S. Congressman, Greg Walden. He was the head of the House Energy Commission. And I got letters from all these people, and they called me up and they wanted me to be on the advisory board. But that's when my wife was dying in a hospital up in Portland. So I was driving from my ranch 400 miles up to OHSU, where she was in the hospital room. So I spent a day at the ranch, keeping everything glued together, and 6 days at her bedside. And so I told him, I said, I can't take the position right now. My wife is more important right now, and I'm the last man standing for her. So, and I think that kind of made him angry. I think, because I turned down a job that everybody out there in the advocacy would want, and to have influence over the BLM. But I got to be loyal, God, family, and country. The bottom line is and then they don't like me criticizing it. But hey, I still believe this is a constitutional republic. And part of our civic duty as citizens is to criticize the civil servants. They work for us. We're not grapes to be squeezed. We're not grapes to be squeezed by them. They work for us, and they need to remember that when they get elected, they need to honor the oath. They serve us. And, so it's not government of the government, by the government, and for the government. That's not what it is. And they need to, that's got to get fixed. But in the meantime, if we all die from wildfire smoke, and it's killing people on the East Coast too. Those numbers I gave you, 36,000 dead every year and 218 billion a year, that's just the Western U.S. I didn't want to make it so complex that the supercomputer couldn't handle it, because even in Washington, D.C., and further down, even Florida got smoke out of Canada a couple of years ago. That smoke from Canada.
Yep.
Yeah, and people died. What the reason it's dying is American Chemical Society just came out with a big report in December 2025. And they said that they've just discovered there's 21% more volatile organic compounds, VOCs. Everybody hates VOCs. Why? Because we know it kills people. VOCs are deadly. That's beyond the PM 2.5. So the bottom line is we're a lot of people are dying. We can fix this. We got to fix it. My mom said, clean up your own bedroom before you worry about anybody else's bedroom. I believe that in our county. Let's fix our county first and our state, and then we'll worry about the rest of it. We gotta start somewhere. And it's all doable, Mike, and it's cash positive. I could save President Trump wants to save money.
Yeah.
President Trump, I can save you $5 billion a year. We can save a lot of those 36,000 people a year from dying. Okay, not all of them, because we don't have enough horses to do the whole job yet. But we can make that first step to saving lives and saving a lot of that money. But this program will save $5 billion a year with a B.
It would probably make that much or more, actually, because I've been to. When I was on the trail, I saw where they had tree farms, and they were, and managed, and the trees were like magnificent, nicely spaced, and they were making lots of money. Managing these trees were absolutely beautiful. It was one of probably the most beautiful places I walked through on the whole trail. Well, and one of the ones that was managed by an independent, private group.
They took your stuff and they don't manage.
Right. Well, you hit on something really important, Mike. I'm glad you brought that up. They actually want to start a new crypto based on carbon forests. So during the fires last year, the Slater fire, I look at whose land gets burned. I study fire ecology. There was a 5,000-acre forest that was owned by a big investment company in Portland that was selling carbon credits to investors to offset, carbon credits. And guess what? The whole forest burned to the ground. So can you imagine the reversal of fortune on that? They got to give back that money. They no longer have those carbon credits. It's like, there's no basis anymore. It's just became evaporated.
Not only give it back,
but be an insurance.
They should pay.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Well, we can protect those assets. We could deploy groups of horses around the carbon forest, the carbon credit forest, and actually prevent those investments from going up in smoke.
Good point. Good point. And I'm sure, just like we're talking about, those people want to, keep their investment, and that would be the great way to do it. And the land management, of course, is, doing the trees right and so forth. You probably, harvest the trees at some point. That would be very profitable. And then the animals would come back, and, you could, hunters come back and, pay a price to go in. There's places down in Texas where they, pay a lot of money to go hunt. So there's a lot of positive things that can come out of that. So yeah, this is the step forward. We need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it's true. And I got grandkids. I want them to see the America that I enjoyed growing up. I don't want them to see the whole West burned to the ground. We are burning forests faster than they're recovering. And at this rate, in just a mere 30 years, forests will be a thing of the past. You drive through Dunsmuir, not far from you, and you look at that, they're basically charcoal poles standing. I mean, that was a gorgeous forest at one point. And that's what's happened in America. This
same around Lake Shasta. God, it got burned bad a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's just.
We just have to. I mean, you can't get AmeriCorps out there with weed eaters. I mean, we're talking 20 million acres in California. And when you prescribe burn, here's the other thing, Mike. They're trying to sell us on prescribed burning now. Well, when you have prodigious fuel, I was going to tell you about pyrochemistry. When you have all this fuel that's not grazed anymore, it burns abnormally hot. Well, what it's doing is producing brand new chemistry, okay? When you heat certain chemicals like terpenes, for instance, that are in plants, when you heat them at like 800, 900 degrees, normal forest temperature, forest fire temperature, you get certain resulting compounds. But when you start heating them up around 1500, we've seen molten aluminum, so we know the fires are that hot or more. You get brand new compounds formed. And these scientists are going, man, we don't even know what these things are. They're carcinogens. We know they're VOCs, and that's what the American Chemical Society, the brand new study from December of 2025 says. 21% more VOCs, and we don't even know they're in the class of carcinogens. So the thing is when you do prescribe burn on landscape with prodigious fuel, what happens? You make more toxic smoke. You're making the problem worse. And in the winter, when we need just a little, we get a breath of fresh air in the winter, right? Well, they're out there making more toxic smoke because you can't do burns on prodigious fuels. And even the RMPs, the range management plans for these big forests, they have a brand new RMP for the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument. They had to do that because Obama added a whole bunch of land, so they had to do a brand new range management plan. And right in their own literature, they say all these different areas. Oh, we got to do understory fuel management, but we can't do prescribed burning until we do mechanical management to reduce the fuel load so it doesn't damage the landscape. It's in writing in their own plans that they can't even engage prescribed fire because it will damage the landscape because of exothermic energy. We've got to start managing the herbivory, and I mean everything. I mean cattle in the right spot, sheep in the right spot, goats around airports and industrial areas, but then horses in the remote areas, where their predators live. And guess what that does? It pulls predators out of the ag lands. If you got enough horses on the other side of a hill where wolves are eating livestock and ranchers are like going, okay, and they put, deterrents on the wolves, they'll go eat the baby horses because it's easy pickings. Up here, I get 45, 50 babies every year. Only about 6 or 8 become 2-year-olds because the predators get them.
Yeah.
And then the big horses, the lions and the bears kill the big ones, and the mountain lions could kill an adult horse easy. Wow. And they do. There's a study from the University of, in fact, Utah, that they looked at the mountain lions on the Great Basin. 60% of their diet is wild horses. Huh. So much for the BLMs, nothing eats them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the lies are so deep.
That's another reason I love to have the wild horses out there in the wild, because when I walked the trail, there was a mountain lion that was out there, and I think I had a close close encounter with it. And then I got to the next town, and they talked about how there was this wild mountain lion, and people had spotted it, and it, be careful out there. And I was like, ooh. So, yeah, I'd rather them be than looking for me or other hikers. So, and that's sometimes what they do.
Yeah,
they take out.
They do. If you take all the food out of the refrigerator, they're going to find a meal somewhere else. And lately, we've been seeing people being killed by lions here in California. A couple of brothers got attacked down by you. One brother died. The lion was feasting on him. The other brother was valiant. He tried to fight, but he was injured, and he had to barely escape with his own life. But his brother was killed by the lion.
Wow. Oh my God. That's sad. Wow, William, great intel, great information. It's, we did take down these bad government agencies or overcome them somehow and get those horses out there where they, yeah.
Well, we need help, Mike. I mean, I'm working 120 hours. I don't get paid. We're an all-volunteer nonprofit organization, Wild Horse Fire Brigade. I've been working my tail off for the last 12 years up here, Mike. If we don't get donations and support, we actually fund the whole Cal State program up here. We're on our third year. We fund that out of our donations. Those kids, and a lot of them are underprivileged. We take care of gasoline and we buy food. They stay here 2 weeks with the herd. And we call it the Goodall method, because when you wake up with the horses and they're all around you, you get to see things that nobody has seen before, okay? And that's how Jane Goodall saw the apes making and using tools. She became part of the troop. She was embedded, right? Well, I became embedded with this herd, and I've already documented all kinds of things about what we got to do. And the thing is to make the program successful. Thank you, Mike. That's our PayPal account, and it makes it easy for people to donate. They just go to our website, hit donate, it brings that screen up, and they can donate using any credit card. But we're helping kids. We're funding the programs out of we don't use any tax dollars for this. We let people decide if they want to support the reduction of deadly wildfire and toxic smoke, and help kids learn about American heritage. These are our heritage horses. We believe that the future generations of Americans should be able to see these special animals that help build our civilization in America. And our herd is unique because we have unique genetics that are still intact. Some of those gene lines came all the way down from Drake. Not all of them, but some of them. There were some cavalry horses that got in and did a little breeding here and there, and we're culling those out with. We're doing genetic studies, so we're going to try to keep the genetics pure, And if it wasn't for generosity of donors, we wouldn't be here today, we got to be successful. We got to do this, Mike. And I call upon people. If people will help us with a generous donation, we can make this happen and save probably at least thousands of lives a year, just initially, and billions of dollars for sure. So, and then cookie cutter it into other states, before the horses are all genetically sterilized, because the BLM is rounding them up.
Yeah, I'll definitely donate. Hopefully everybody's listening will donate and share the show, and we'll share it on my other platforms and get this out there. This is definitely a worthy cause. The government, like we talked about, is not working for us. It's working against us. We need to change that. We got to do it. So they're going to continue to do stupid until we tell them otherwise, and we got to get aggressive with it. This is one of the programs that actually works. It's very simple, very easy, and we can make it, start to make a difference out there. I look forward to seeing those horses out there.
I appreciate it, Mike, and I really appreciate your time and getting me in so quick on the show. You're an officer and a gentleman.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's a worthy cause, William. Thank you. You look a lot younger. You look like my age, 65. So good job.
No.
Staying young.
Well, I've been sharing breath with stallions. I don't know if it gives you extra life with the wild stallions. They come up with the breath of God in them. They're God's creations, and they still commune with God on top of the mountain, I believe.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. All right, William, thanks so much, and we look forward to. I'd love to have you back on in the future, and we can talk a little bit more in detail. Hopefully, maybe I get out there and do some video with you out there, and you can show us around. And
Love it.
That'll be even better.
Love to have you and your sweetheart come up here, and we'll get a picture of you next to a wild mountain stallion that's breathing the breath of God. I mean, you'll feel it. You will. When these guys are nature's operators, boy, and they have a presence, boy. But anybody with me, they think they're with my family because they're family oriented the way they look at the world. And somebody with me, they say, "Oh, Bill's got a new family member. Let's go meet him." And that's how they look at it. They're completely wild, but they know, that's how they look at the world. You can't evaluate horses using human value propositions. You have to learn how they look at the world, and that's what we've done. So that's why we can make this work. We know how to manage wild horses. Nobody else has done this. We're the only ones in the whole world that live with a wild herd and have done all this work.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, sir. Thanks so much. And like I said, we look forward to doing more with you in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Right, man, that was fantastic show with William. I hope you guys donate, because I'm going to make it a monthly donation. So we got to get this done and get this moving forward. So that there's a lot of stuff going on. The silver market, took a nosedive, and I don't say we suffered through it. We just have a better opportunity moving forward with silver at a lower price. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, everybody's focused on the sex part. There's a lot more going on with Jeffrey Epstein than just the sex part. All these guys do this sex thing. They have it on each other. They'll just dime each other out if they get out of line. That's all that is. There's a lot more involved with Jeffrey Epstein, and we're going to dive into that. So much more to go into. So don't leave yet. Let's talk about some amazing things. Your money, your wealth, so that you can donate to Save the Horses and have them manage the land so we don't die from smoke inhalation. Wow, unbelievable. Tens of thousands of people dying every year from that smoke inhalation. Boy, we're not hearing that, are we? Gosh, there's a lot of things we're not hearing. And one of those is, black budgets that's being stolen. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's look at what happened to the markets over the last week. They took a little dive. They worked off a little overbought situations that was going on. But we're in the point where we're oversold. So I'm going to show you what happens with oversold. So you look at the NASDAQ on Friday. You see throughout the week, it basically just went down, down, down. And then, and it was what was pushing it down was Bitcoin. Bitcoin was diving. And the market wanted to go up, but Bitcoin was going down, and it was dragging down the regular market. What happened on Thursday night and early Friday morning? Bitcoin turned around. So Bitcoin was dragging the market down, and when Bitcoin turned around aggressively and started going up, the market responded on Friday massively. So now we have a Dow Jones Industrial Average over 50,000. So this is the hourly. It gapped up. You know how I feel about gaps. Those gaps got to be filled at some point. But for now, it's basically, up. It gapped up, and you see that big candle there. That's a God candle. And it just went, it went up big, and then it just kept going up all day long. So if you were long on the stock